Family and community members, we are ready for our final session today with Dr. Jeremy Brueck. He will be sharing with us on the latest and future technologies for college and career-ready gifted students. Dr. Brueck believes in empowering the next generation through purposeful, tech-driven learning. As an associate professor at the University of Mount Union, his work focuses on how digital tools and AI are shaping the future of learning. A recipient of the Ohio Board of Regents Best EdTech Innovator Award, Dr. Brueck has presented nationally and internationally. A proud father of 3 college-age sons, Dr. Brueck brings both academic expertise and personal insight to his work, inspiring families to support their children as confident, capable, and future-ready digital learners. Welcome, Dr. Brueck.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Erica. Well, welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Jeremy Brueck, and you heard some of my background. I currently work at the University of Mount Union, where I am specializing in ed tech, digital literacy, and making sure that students are ready for success in these tech-driven learning environments that we see across the nation and the globe, actually. For over 2 decades, I've worked as a teacher, as a researcher, and also as a curriculum leader with a lot of focus on how emerging technology tools such as AI are going to transform the way that we teach and the way that we learn. As Erica said, I do have 3 college-age sons. My youngest is 18 years old and a freshman at Bowling Green State University. My other sons have recently concluded their college, their undergraduate time. And we work together to navigate that transition from high school to college. Today, what I'd really like to focus in on is how families can better understand the digital landscape that's out there right now, and then equip their gifted students with the skills that they're going to need to thrive in both college and career. So I'll go ahead and get started. By the end of our time together, it's my goal that you'll leave with a better understanding of what today's most impactful educational technologies look like, especially those involving artificial intelligence, digital collaboration, and also personalized learning. We're going to look at real-world tools that your children are probably already encountering or soon will encounter, both in high school and in college. We'll examine the digital and executive functioning skills that students need to succeed in these environments. Those are skills like managing their own learning, using AI responsibly and ethically, organizing tasks digitally, and then navigating complex systems like online course platforms and financial aid portals that, if you haven't experienced yet, you will very soon. Finally, we're going to talk about some practical and some actionable ways that you, whether you're a parent, an educator, or an administrator, the way that you can support gifted students in building these skills at home and in school, even if your local gifted programming is limited or possibly even under-resourced. So we'll get started right in with looking at the 2025 tech landscape. These are the tools and the trends that are actively shaping what teaching and learning look like today and what that means for your gifted students. So the big one that we have already led with is artificial intelligence. Tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, even Meta to some percent are being used by students for things like brainstorming essay ideas, checking their grammar, summarizing articles, and some of them are even using them to do advanced things like create code. These tools aren't just novelties. They are rapidly becoming embedded into everyday academic workflows. And students who understand how to use them ethically and effectively will definitely be at a distinct advantage. We also have some collaboration platforms like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 that are really now the digital glue of our classrooms. We expect students to do things like write in Google Docs or in a Word doc, build presentations in PowerPoint or in Google Slides, communicate via Gmail and Outlook, and then track projects in shared drives. So in college and in the workplace, that ability to collaborate virtually, cleanly and consistently and professionally is every bit as important as writing a strong essay or solving a difficult math problem. You'll also be encountering dashboards and data as we enter into college and career. Schools are increasingly, they're relying on platforms that track and visualize student progress, whether it's from academic scores to time spent on task. Students are going to be expected to interpret that data, to respond to feedback, and also to self-monitor their growth. So these tools give schools and students and families powerful insight, but they also require that students begin to take more ownership of their own learning journey. So when we weave these technologies together, what's happening is we're raising the bar not only for what students need to know, but what they need to think, to communicate, and to take initiative in digital spaces that are all around them. While we know that gifted students often demonstrate strong academic knowledge, that doesn't necessarily always translate into the kinds of real world readiness that they'll need beyond high school. And what I have found is that there's these three critical areas we really need to pay attention to as they move from middle school to high school towards college and careers. And those are digital fluency and increasingly AI fluency, time management, and also financial literacy. Digital fluency is something that goes far beyond what we traditionally think of as literacy. It goes beyond being able to use a smartphone or to Google something. It's about being able to think critically about information, and especially in this age of artificial intelligence, where we have to discriminate between what is good information and what might not be good information. Students also then have to learn how to work with the AI tools, not just to get their answers, but to ask better questions, to assess quality, and to use that technology ethically and responsibly. And this is a new literacy that's really evolving quickly. So it's going to be hard to stay on top of, but it's incumbent upon parents to make sure that they're aware of these new AI and digital literacies. I feel like we've talked about time management as a skill that students will need for quite some time, well prior to digital age or AI, but it's a skill that we cannot wait until college to teach our students. When we think about the digital world we're living in, there are few bells and few reminders in that digital space. So students are expected to manage deadlines, to communicate with their instructors. They also have to balance coursework independently. So many students are used to succeeding without structured routines, but then they suddenly hit environments where those routines become essential. And if they haven't mastered them by that time, it becomes really a challenge for those students. So helping our kids, our students build habits and self-monitor their own strategies now can prevent some struggles later on as we move into college and career. And finally, financial literacy is more than a life skill. Honestly, it's a confidence builder and a necessity. When your student understands money, budgeting, and how to make responsible decisions, uh, they'll start to gain a sense of control that can impact their motivation, impact their independence, and also ultimately their long-term success. So when we have successful financial literacy, students who are fluent in that, it can also help students avoid pitfalls that many young adults face, especially as you start to think about navigating scholarships, student loans, financial aid, and all of the monetary topics that are going to come to the forefront as you begin looking for a college. When you put these three areas together, they kind of represent this foundation for self-sufficiency in our modern world. And the sooner that your students begin practicing them, the more confident and prepared they'll be, not just as learners, but also as emerging adults. And they need help to do this. We can't expect them to do it on our own. Sometimes as parents, we need help too. And hopefully this session will give you some of that assistance. When you think about making that transition to college, many gifted students are going to enter into college with a very strong sense of academic confidence. They've mastered the material, they've excelled on tests, but sometimes what I've seen that will trip them up isn't really the content, it's the logistics. College students are expected to do a number of things independently. And really, sometimes at some institutions, we expect them to do it independently from day one. They have to manage a web of digital systems every single day when comes to college. And even if they're going directly into careers, they're going to have to manage these digital systems in daily work. In some classes, we might have a professor that's using Canvas. Others might use Blackboard. You'll have professors that are sending messages through university email or posting updates in the learning portal. And then there's other specific and separate platforms for things like housing or dining or student billing, library services, financial aid, career services. These are all the different web platforms that I see college students trying to navigate. And that's before you add in the possibility of digital textbooks, scheduling apps, or other tools that they might be using for group collaboration. So it's really a level of complexity that can easily overwhelm even the most high achieving student, especially if they've never had to manage it all on their own. And this is where parents, families, caregivers can play a big role, not by doing it for them, but by helping them build digital independence before they're out on their own. So, for example, you make sure that your student is managing their own high school email account. You're going to ask things like, are you checking it regularly? Are you responding professionally? Or conversely, are you as a parent still forwarding on school updates to them? If you are, that could be a little bit of a red flag here. You've got to let them take full ownership of logging into their grade portals, their email, their learning platforms like Google Classroom, because if they can't navigate a high school portal independently, there's a strong possibility that they're going to struggle when college adds like 5 more. And that's just the truth of the matter. There's a lot of different systems in higher ed, and we see institutions that are moving between these different platforms quickly because they're all contracted services. Those contracts expire. We know that financial health of some institutions might not be as strong as they used to, and there's budgetary decisions that are influencing the types of software and web portals that are being used. So there's a lot for students to be aware of and stay up to date with. And even us as parents, we've got to make sure that we understand those systems as well. Things we can do to get them started is practicing like using a digital calendar together. Sit down with your child and have them map out like a mock college schedule. Look at class times, look at their work shifts. When are they having study blocks? Extracurriculars or athletics? What are meals going to be? And then practice putting that into a shared calendar and setting reminders, because this will get them in the habit of time blocking and then syncing their responsibilities across all these different platforms. You can also, with your child, explore a college website together. You don't have to wait till they're enrolled. You don't have to wait until they're even admitted. You can walk through a lot of institutions' websites to find where things are, like the advising office. You can find course registration instructions. You can find the financial aid FAQ page. What you're really shooting for here is a goal to help students become self-navigators. I'm on believe it or not, a Facebook group for parents of college-age students at one of the institutions my children attend, and I am always amazed at some of the questions that parents are asking about self-navigation. They're asking other parents for support, which is great, but part of me sometimes says, you've got to be able to do this on your own, and you shouldn't be just typing in these simple routine questions. To me, that's a red flag. I think that's a student that might not be where they need to be because parents are asking these simple questions themselves instead of helping them learn how to self navigate, search, and find answers. These are all teachable skills. Their independence with technology doesn't always come naturally, especially to students who've already had a lot of structure and support. But if you can provide them with guided practice now, before they move to college, then they'll be far more confident and really a lot less stressed when college begins. I would say since the COVID pandemic, the thing that I've seen the most on the rise is students who are self-reporting and asking for mental health assistance. The stress, the anxiety is real. It's there, and that's one of the things that sticks out to me the most about today's students. That's a lot different than when I first started in this profession. I think it's positive because students are understanding when they're stressed, when they have anxiety, when they need help. But the cases, the number of cases are up, and that's caused a little bit of cause for concern. Um, so to get them tech ready, what do we need to do? Because it's part of a much larger picture, really. And it's not just about knowing how to use the tools, how to use the apps, how to use the platforms. For gifted students in particular, success depends just as much on their emotional readiness, their self-advocacy skills, and their internal motivation as it does on their digital and technology skills. So one thing that we see from time to time is that we'll have gifted students that experience what I call asynchronous development. It's this time where their intellectual abilities really outpace their emotional or their executive functioning, and this can create a gap. For example, a student might be able to write at a college level, but they still struggle with frustration, with perfectionism, or even with time management in some cases. And these are internal challenges that are only magnified in environments where students are expected to navigate independently. And this is especially when they encounter tech systems that aren't intuitive, responsive, or personalized. It also then leads to what I had discussed previously, which is anxiety. This anxiety often stems from feeling misunderstood or students that have perfectionist tendencies, or sometimes simply from boredom. When tech adds this additional complexity, like trying to locate a missing assignment in a confusing portal or managing multiple applications for just one class, these are the things that can heighten stress. So that's why it's so important that we're not just building tech skill, but we're helping students learn how to regulate their emotional responses when things don't go smoothly. And then, self-advocacy fits right in there. Sometimes students will have a tendency to think that their performance just speaks for itself. But in college and even increasingly, I think in high school, students have to speak up. They have to ask for clarification and they have to request support. So this includes emailing a professor about a glitch or something doesn't seem right in the learning management system. It could be emailing a professor to ask for deadline extensions, or even seeking out ancillary campus resources when something isn't working. But the more that we normalize and practice with students now, the more likely they are to do it when it matters most. So work with your student and help make sure that they advocate for themselves and they understand how important that self-advocacy is. While I said that one of the concerning things to me was the number of students with anxiety that I was seeing since COVID, one positive thing that I've seen is a rise in self-advocacy and students taking a stand for themselves and speaking up and asking for help when they need it. One of the things I often use with students is my fail analogy. Failure isn't a bad thing. Failure is actually what helps us learn and do better. So rather than saying it's a negative, we look at it as a first attempt in learning, That's what FAIL stands for. And we try to present it from a positive light so that students know I can learn and grow. I can get better. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing that it happened like this. I'm going to be better in the long run for it. The other piece that we are alluding to in this graphic here is a little bit motivation. Sometimes we've seen gifted students that aren't really appropriately challenged, and they might start to disengage. It's not because they're lazy, but sometimes it's because they don't see the point. And technology can really make this worse if it's used for things like busy work or standardized tasks. And that's why it's really critical that students get opportunities to use tech in creative and meaningful ways. Things like designing stuff, exploring something that's a passion, solving problems. Because when you're using tech for those types of things, it shifts the experience from compliance to curiosity. And that's really where motivation can thrive. Um, but ultimately, tech readiness has got to be woven into the broader framework that honors our whole child. Digital tools really can only be as powerful as the student that's using them. So when we support students in building confidence, in building resilience, and using their voice alongside their tech skills, what we're really doing is prepping them for more than college. We're preparing them for a successful life. And I think as a parent myself, it's safe to assume that that's really what we want for our children. We want them to have a meaningful and fulfilling life, whether it comes to work, personal, social, or other aspects of life. So that's what we really need to think about when we're incorporating technology is how is it impacting the whole child? Well, how can we help is the question that I get asked quite often. And sometimes it's you got to start with this. We know that parents can't always be tech experts to support their students. Um, but what they really need to be is tech aware. That means that parents, you understand how technology shows up in your kids' daily life and that you're being intentional about how you're using technology at home. I think one of the most powerful things that you can do as a parent is to monitor and model purposeful tech use in your own life. So, as an example, if you use a digital calendar to keep track of work meetings or family logistics, you should share that with your kid and explain how it helps you stay on top of things. I often will pull up my calendar and share it with my child when they ask me to do something. I'll say, let me look at my calendar. And then if they want to know what I've got going on, I'm happy to share. You'll see in a few slides what I'm doing with things like calendars. Um, you can also then show them how you're using budgeting tools in your own life, and let them know that as an adult, as a professional, as your parent, I'm relying on technology for real world problem solving, not just for entertainment. The entertainment piece, I think, is easy. Most of us and kids understand how to use tech for entertainment. But what we're talking about here is tech with a purpose and tech to help make our lives more productive, more efficient, and more effective. I think another way that as families we really need to help students is by setting expectations around that tech use. So to me, phones and laptops aren't the problem. It's how they're being used. So one of the things I've really tried with my own children is to encourage them to view their devices as tools for learning, tools for organization, tools for creation, because that helps us build this mindset together by doing simple things like researching a trip or using flight apps or planning a meal using recipe websites or comparing product reviews online so that we make sure we're making informed decisions before purchasing. These are all transferable digital literacy skills that parents and families can reinforce at home, and you can begin early by modeling these behaviors. Be open and very clear with your students. Do a self-talk of what your own thinking is as you're going things through, like researching a trip or finding flights, and let the child hear that as you're going through. That's how they're going to learn to be able to do that independently in the future. I get asked a lot also about screen time and how much screen time should students have. And it's really a complicated and also a somewhat personal decision. But what I encourage parents to do is to shift the conversation from punishment to partnership. If we're going to track screen time, we're going to do it not to shame, but so that we can get our kids to reflect. We ask our children things like, what do you notice about your screen time habits? Do you think you're spending too much time on apps that distract you? What about time with apps that are energizing you? How do you manage these apps? Are they interrupting you while you're doing homework online? Asking these tough questions builds self-awareness and self-regulation, which are two really key life skills, I think, for any student, whether they're gifted or not. Self-awareness and self-regulation leads to productive citizens in the future. So these are key things I think that we should consider as parents and families. But there's a lot, and I'm telling you, there's just an ocean of tools that can help you here. So which ones are worth knowing about is another question I get quite frequently. The answer is there's too many to know all of them. But in the next couple slides, what I want to do is introduce you to some apps and to some platforms, some that you might already use and others that might be new, that I think can help your student manage their time, their learning, their money, and hopefully long-term their mindset. So we'll dive into some of those as well. The first, I mean, ChatGPT, it's been huge for a couple of years now, and it's only getting bigger. There's other big tech industries that are creating their own artificial intelligence tools. Other noted ones would be Gemini and Copilot. But essentially, these are conversational AI tools that can help students in a variety of ways. It can help students brainstorm. It can help them summarize. It can help them explain concepts. And believe it or not, it can actually help them practice writing. For our learners, it's a really powerful way to explore ideas beyond the curriculum and even ask deeper questions in real time. But the thing is, with all of these tools, doing it well requires that digital fluency. You've got to build students that can critically evaluate AI responses, because ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, they can all sound really confident in what the results that are produced, even when it's wrong. So that's really a teachable moment when you find something that AI has generated that is incorrect, and you share that with students. You've got to begin exploring these together with your kids. You can do things like trying to outline an essay. You could use them to research college majors or even colleges in general, or generating interview questions. The goal, I think, that we've really got to hone in on is that AI tools aren't here to replace thinking. They're here to help us sharpen our thinking. And the tools they're everywhere. They're in education, they're in work, and they're in daily life. These AI models are not going away. It's going to be a tool that will be embedded in college writing centers, in workplace tools, and even in apps that your student probably already uses. The earlier that students and parents learn how to use AI tools and use them wisely, the more empowered those students are going to be. One of the things that I've been doing with my students at Mount Union is trying to help them become strong prompt developers. Because one thing that we've got to hone in on is that a strong prompt increases the likelihood of you getting back good responses from the AI tool. I've got an example here. I teach a class for pre-service educators. It's the pre-service teaching course. So many of them are getting ready to go out into a classroom to plan and facilitate their own lessons with the help of a mentor teacher. And one of the things that we're trying to help them realize is communication is important, engagement with families is important, and that sometimes you're going to need to make a call home to families for a positive reason. Other times you're going to have to make a challenging call home. So, an activity that we recently did was this role play activity where at the beginning, I asked students to work together in pairs to role play a challenging call home and do that completely unassisted on their own, to think about it, to reflect on it. And then once they were done, I let them take that same scenario that they role played on and I modeled for them an exact prompt to use to feed into AI to hopefully help you get better at practicing making these calls. So I've been embedding what I call application activities into all my courses that show how you might use an AI agent like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot to make your work uh, more effective, more efficient, and just overall at a higher level. Um, as I work with students looking at AI tools, one of the things that sticks out to me the most right now, and the thing that was like my aha moment with AI, and I'm not going to lie, it didn't happen very long ago, is that students lack the experience that we have as professionals, and they don't understand how to apply the use of that tool to the actual professional situations. I've made many, many calls home, and I have all that experience to draw on. So when I write a prompt to AI to help me prepare for that call, I know a lot of things that I should tell AI to help me do and make sure it includes these things. But a 20-year-old student, 21-year-old student who's never had to make a call home, they don't have that experience. And what I found is that their prompts really weak. So one of the things that I'm trying to do as a college professor now is help them understand prompt generation and make sure that they're developing strong prompts that they put in that will help them get specific and meaningful results that they need in the work that they're trying to complete. Another kind of digital fluency tool that I think is really powerful, it's been around for a while and you might be familiar, is Canva. This is a free design platform that helps students create very clean, professional visuals, things like slides, posters, resumes, portfolios, infographics. So it's a very powerful free tool that does offer a subscription model as well. For our gifted learners, it's really useful for showcasing their ideas creatively and for building real world communication skills. It helps them not learn not just what to say, but how to say it clearly, visually, and with impact. You can get together with your child and use it together to design a resume or map out a college comparison chart or create a visual study guide. The thing I like about Canva is it's very intuitive and accessible, even for students that don't kind of view themselves as artistic. It's very much a digital storytelling tool, and digital storytelling is a skill that students will use long after their graduation in school, in work, and in life. One of the examples from another of my classes, which is more of a classroom management mid-level course, is we ask students to use Canva to create a flyer that they'll send home with their students that talks about how the teacher will help the student and how suggest how parents could help their students as well. This particular assignment focuses on adolescent development, but there's many other practical applications that we can use Canva for as well. It's a great free tool. And if you have the resources available, I find that the paid subscription is very well worth it. I would say the same for ChatGPT. The thing you'll notice as we go through these apps, though, is they're most of them are a subscription model. So financial literacy plays a role in understanding and knowing how much these apps cost and what's the bottom line when it comes to our own financial resources. But Canva is a great tool. Um, Another one that I've discovered recently that I really like, and I've been incorporating it more into my courses when it comes to having small group discussions, is called Otter.ai. This is an AI powered transcription tool that you can use to record and transcribe conversations in real time. It's very similar to the transcription tool that's built or now built into the Zoom platform and the Microsoft Teams platform. It comes in really handy for things like lectures, interviews, even meetings. Any situation where you or your student need to capture and review spoken information, this tool is great. It can support deeper engagement. So instead of scrambling to take notes, your student can focus on listening, knowing that Otter is capturing the audio and is going to transcribe it for them. And then once they're done focusing on the listening and being present in a class, they can go back and revisit the transcript to reflect or to organize ideas. It also can help build study habits like summarizing or tagging and identifying key moments in conversations. For parents, I would say use it with your students now to record and transcribe a college info session, for example, or a tutoring session, or even a parent-teacher conference. It's going to show how AI can support and not replace learning. It's also a great conversation starter when we want to think about things like privacy, accuracy, and ethical use of AI in everyday life. Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar, when we get to time management, are two of the most widely used digital scheduling tools that are out there. I think they're free for the most part. Most students have or will encounter at least one of them in college and likely in the workplace as well. For gifted students that are very often juggling advanced coursework along with extracurriculars and personal interests, calendars are essential for managing their time, reducing that stress, and staying organized. But what I found when it comes to college age students is many of them aren't using them effectively. Many of them are not using them at all. So I think the goal here is not just to micromanage every hour of your day, but it's to help students see their time and make tough choices about where they're going to give their time. I always tell students the one resource you'll never get any more of is time. So you need to think carefully about who you're saying yes to and where you're giving your time because it's a valuable and scarce resource. So when you block out your class schedule, when you put in assignment deadlines, or even study time that you want, it gives students that structure and control that can help them become more self-sufficient for the future. As a parent, you can model this by creating your own shared calendars for family obligations, for different projects that you have, or even if you're prepping for college applications and admission now, even for those types of timelines. Um, I use it. You can see here, this is just a short glance. I've got it synced across my phone and my web platforms. I've got my students' schedule in here. I've got my own schedule in here. I've got my work schedule in here. I even track if I played golf every day because I want to know how much time I'm getting to spend doing things that I like and love that bring me joy. So I'm trying to even know how much golf I'm playing annually. Also, because I want to make sure that I'm spending my money wisely. So if I'm not taking full advantage of the country club that I'm paying a high membership fee for, maybe I need to think about dropping that membership fee and using that money somewhere else. So one place that you can really help your student is getting them geared up for using digital calendar tools. You could get started by asking them to enter their weekly commitments like school, sports, and work into a digital calendar. And then you can show them how to add reminders for different things. Because over time, what this is going to do is build independence and reduce last minute stress. It's a simple tool. It's a pretty heavily used tool, but when you use it well, it creates clarity, accountability, and balance for our students. So I see it as a critical thing that a lot of students are coming to college unprepared to use effectively and efficiently. Another time management tool is called Todoist. This is a very simple but very powerful task management app, and it helps students break big assignments into smaller, manageable pieces. So when we think about learners, especially those who might tend to procrastinate or sometimes get overwhelmed, it's a really good way to bring structure to their thinking. It essentially works kind of like a digital checklist. Students can create tasks, they can set due dates, and they can check them off as they go. They can even organize tasks by a subject or by a priority level, which I think is nice. And it does offer a calendar integration that would automatically add all your Todoist tasks to your calendar and vice versa, all your calendar events to Todoist as new tasks. So that integration piece is really nice if you find it something to be helpful with your student. As a parent, you can sit down with your student once or twice a week to review their assignments, their deadlines, and their personal goals, and then get them entered into Todoist. It shifts the conversation from like the question, what do you have to do, to how are you planning for these things that you have to do? It's a very low entry to barrier type app, and it's really pretty easy to maintain. I see it as a really great on ramp for students who are new to digital planning, and you're trying to get going in that direction with them. So Todoist is another time management tool I found really helpful. If you want to look at a more complex tool for time management, you're probably looking at something like Notion. This is an advanced time and project management tool. It's ideal for gifted students who like to customize and connect their ideas. It's kind of part planner, part notebook, part database. Where Todoist kind of handles simple tasks, Notion lets students build this full dashboard of their life. Things like homework trackers, reading logs, goal setting pages. You could even build college comparison charts in here. While Todoist is pretty easy to kind of get up and running, I do find the learning curve is a little steeper here with Notion. But sometimes that's part of the appeal for our gifted students. It's like building your own digital system from the ground up. So there's a lot of flexibility and options for students. If I were trying to start with my student, I would give you this advice: start small. Help your student create a simple weekly planner or project tracker in Notion, then give them ownership to expand it however they want. Remember, it's not just about managing tasks, it's about designing a system that fits kind of how their brain works and will work for them. So Notion's out there free for personal use. Definitely probably overwhelming for middle school age students, but higher level, high school and into college, that is the sweet spot for Notion, I'd say. Moving on to financial literacy, one app that I've liked a lot the past couple of years is called Greenlight. This is a debit card and an app that's designed specifically for children and for teens. What it lets you do as a parent is set spending limits. It lets you automate an allowance and kind of assign savings goals as well, all while you give your student or your child this hands-on experience with managing money. For our kids, it's kind of a low risk way to develop this financial independence that we want them to have. Instead of abstract lessons about money, they're actually budgeting in real time. They're making choices. They're tracking their spending. And they're also learning about consequences without overdrafting the checking account. So that's there's some protection built in for us as families who don't want to see those service charges if a kid spends too much or overdrafts their account. As a parent, you can use Greenlight to give your student a monthly budget for school, for lunches, for gas, personal expenses, whatever you want. And then what you should do is talk to them about how it's going, what went well, what surprised them. While it's a paid service, the skills that it builds, like planning, restraint, financial awareness, are really critical and foundational for life after high school. So, many banks have a kind of a partnership with Greenlight, and you can actually go to your local branch of your bank and see if they offer a Greenlight debit card that you can sync with this app. It is $4.99 a month, but for a difficult and abstract concept that we have with financial literacy, it does a really nice job to get kids started on the right foot. Zogo is another financial literacy app. It's free. This app, instead of giving you real time practice with finances, actually is an app that teaches financial literacy through quick quiz style lessons. So it's kind of gamified where it's designed like a game and students can earn points, they can level up, and they can even get small rewards as they complete the learning modules in it. One of the things that makes Zogo different is how kind of approachable it is. Every lesson takes just a few minutes. It always covers practical topics, things like savings, credit cards, student loans, investing. It kind of really meets students where they are, and it makes learning about money feel attainable, not overwhelming. So I recommend that families use Zogo together. Try setting a goal to complete one lesson a night for a week and then talk about it over dinner. It's a small habit that can spark big conversations. And best of all, a lot of banks, schools offer Zogo for free. So if you haven't heard about that, I would recommend checking that out. Uh, while there's many tools that we can go to, the final one that I'm going to recommend, I think, is Robinhood. This is an investing app that many of you have probably heard about before. It gives users real-time access to the stock market. It's got this very sleek, beginner-friendly interface that will give your student a chance to learn how markets work, not just in theory, but also in practice. For older students, especially those interested in math, finance, or economics, this can be a very powerful way to apply what they're learning. But a caveat here is it does involve real money and real risk. So it should come with some strong guidance and boundaries. It does require your child to be 18 years or older to open an account. And families can use it to track and trade stocks, to simulate trades, or talk about how investing works over time. I know I'm running short on time, so we've covered a lot about emerging technologies. Some key takeaways I think that you might want to recall is to be tech aware. You don't have to be a tech expert. Focus on habits, not just hacks, and use tech to spark real life learning. Think about one thing you can do this month. Maybe it's setting up a shared Google Calendar, downloading one of those budgeting apps, or just having a conversation with your student who wants to use AI responsibly. Hope you're walking away with a few new tools and some ideas and a better sense of how we can support our gifted students as they navigate this increasingly digital world. Appreciate your time, your attention, and the work that you do to support young learners. So I'd be happy to open it up now and see if there's any questions briefly before we end.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brueck. If anyone has any quick questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. While you're doing that, I know I was taking quite a few notes and some screenshots of some of those apps, so I'm going to go check some of those out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll be happy to send a PDF of the slides as well so we can get it on the Wova app and it's accessible after today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to send those to Abby. That's great. We'll monitor the chat for a minute or two. And if there are any more questions, then we will go ahead and close out. So families and communities, Dr. Brueck's email is there should you wish to reach him. And thank you so much for coming and sharing today. Dr. Brueck, thank you for your expertise and for all that you had to give. And we want to once again thank all of our speakers from today. We are so looking forward to those who are coming to our fall conference here in Columbus. And if you are here, be sure to stop by and say hi. The recording of this session will also be available. Abby will give us a little bit of information on where and how to find that. And on behalf of OAGC, we want to thank everyone for your attendance, your attention, your time, and wish you all the best within your families and also within your community. Take care, everyone.